Hi, I'm Marguerite with MoveToTacoma.com, and I'm here today with my friend and colleague, Jenny. Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
And we're going to talk about something I know very little about, which is waterfront and water view property in the Tacoma area. And that's something that you do know something about.
Yes.
So when people are relocating here, a lot of people are relocating to Tacoma, Gig Harbor, Northeast Tacoma. They're here for the water. They're here to see the water, maybe some mountains. Some people want to be on the water, but also folks who've lived here their whole lives also might want to get to that point in their lives where they're like, now I want to see the water. Now I want to be on the water. And how to even begin? Like when you're evaluating whether or not that's a possibility for you, like what are the factors to consider?
Well, I think the first question to ask yourself is, what is the scope? Do you just want to see the water, or do you want to have access to the water? So that's probably the first question you need to ask yourself. And does your budget support having immediate access to the water?
Okay, so let's say, just to say Tacoma, like North Tacoma, maybe UP. What is the difference between, I mean, is there even any waterfront in that area? Very little.
Absolutely. So in University Place, there's Day Island, where you have immediate access. There's also a public beach down at Day Island. North Tacoma, as far as having immediate access from your home, is much less likely. However, you can be 2, 3, 4 minutes away from the water in North Tacoma.
So if you're looking at the water in North Tacoma, the West Slope, University Place, like what is the range? Obviously, I know it depends quite a bit on the size and condition of the house, but if you want to see the water, what's the low end, what's the high end?
Well, if you're looking for a fixer-upper, or if you're willing to purchase a fixer-upper, you can absolutely get in to a view property for less than $1 million. I would even say potentially $800,000 if it's a real fixer-upper. But if it's going to be turnkey, and it's depending on the caliber of the view, how big the view is, you're looking at probably $950,000 and up.
Okay, great. And then if you want to be on the water, I mean, I just assume if you want to be on the water, have a beach, maybe a dock, you're looking at Gig Harbor. Is that strictly true, or are there other spots?
Gig Harbor, if you want a dock specifically, then yes, you should be looking out. And
if you need to park your yacht.
That's right. That's right. And if you have a boat.
If you have a boat.
Everybody wants to be your friend.
Yes, I want to be your friend. So, okay, Gig Harbor is the place for waterfront with a dock, with a beach. And what are you looking at price-wise there? Because my head I just start thinking you're going to be over $2 million at this point. Is that true, or not necessarily?
No, not necessarily. I mean, there was a property that I sold last year on Goodman Drive. It was a big fixer-upper. We sold for cash, but you had a private dock, you had immediate access to the water, mid-bank. So there are unique opportunities like that in the area. However, if it is going to be a turnkey home, then to have dock access turnkey, I mean, we're looking at probably, at around $2 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great to keep in mind.
Yeah.
What about, I have a girlfriend that was looking for a house for over a year, finally found something under $1 million that was on the water. Like they have a beach.
Yeah.
Massive permitting issues that they're having an adventure resolving, but like that's kind of what they expected. But is that a thing you can get, like something under $1 million on the water? Like you have access to salt water under $1 million.
Yeah.
What does it take to get that?
So yes, I mean, there are, for example, there's another community in Gig Harbor. This property too had some permitting, I guess, clarification items at the very least. And
Deftly put.
So there are opportunities out there. I think that the majority, I mean, really as a home buyer, you need to really dig in, hire an agent that knows the local community, the local permitting, if it's within an HOA, if it's what exactly is the access, does the public have access, all those questions that pertain to your lifestyle and what you hope to achieve in your purchase. Like those are, dig deep and make sure that you have all those. But going back to your question, you can absolutely find a place on the water for that $1 million mark. But again, you're going to have to go out a little bit further. We're talking about probably traveling out to the Key Peninsula, finding a place on the water in Gig Harbor, potentially even that has like a private dock, especially. That's not going to happen for $1 million. So,
Great to know.
yeah.
I think you also touched on a key point that is really important. You know, I've been a real estate agent for 18 years in this area, and I know nothing about $1 million plus waterfront homes. It has not been my world. And I think for folks who maybe live here and are like, okay, I'm going to make the transition to this, like the idea of finding a real estate agent who has a proven track record, selling these houses, like knowing what to look for. I think people don't realize how important that is.
Well, and just having the connection. So, for example, I mean, oftentimes when we're talking about these waterfront properties, we're talking about needing, somebody who's a geotech, somebody who understands engineering of a hillside. So for you to have those contacts and reassurance to fully investigate the property, make sure that it's not something that in 5 years you're looking at doing a $500,000, engineering of the hillside that you're on so it doesn't fall into the deep abyss.
That makes so much sense. And I'm thinking like shoreline issues, who owns the water rights, like all of that kind of stuff. And, when you first said contacts, I assumed you meant like off-market contacts. I'm like, oh yeah, so you know the kind of people who might be willing to sell that aren't listed. But you're like, no, like all of the inspection issues, the property line. Can you harvest your own shellfish?
Well, and so for like a traditional single-family home, we get a home inspection, we get a sewer scope, we might test do a heat sensor to make sure that there's no like water issues in the house. Those are very traditional things to do in a home in the Pacific Northwest. But when we're talking about waterfront and being on the water and probably being on a steep cliff, we need to do some additional digging and make sure that all these other really important and involved pieces of buying the house, it isn't going to cause any surprises to you. That's our job, mitigate and prevent any big surprises that you have as a future homeowner of a waterfront property. Dock specialists, I mean, the list goes on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you know, because I definitely don't. Thank you so much for coming and talking with us about this.
Thanks, Marguerite, for having me.
Move to Tacoma.com.